I think more shock and dauntingness was more the feeling I felt. But it was, the thing is, it's, I think I was on such a high anyway, and so was Catherine about George, that
It was the type of decision that wasn't meant to be made public, a quiet instruction delivered behind palace doors, carefully phrased and channeled through royal administrative channels. However, once word spread, it caused shockwaves across the monarchy and enraged one individual in particular, Queen Camilla. According to senior sources, Prince William has formally begun the process of withdrawing Camilla's family's royal privileges, including ceremonial titles, status references, and informal access that Camilla quietly built for her children and grandkids over the years. While Camilla's ancestors were never in the official line of succession, they had a rising presence in royal circles, which upset traditionalists and enraged William and Kate behind the scenes. Now that presence is being gradually dismantled. In what aides refer to as a monarchy reset, William reportedly directed the palace to remove all honorary associations granted to the Parker-Bowles family, including their inclusion in royal invitations, seating arrangements at state events, and any further mention in internal royal communications. The adjustment is being portrayed as a restoration to strict constitutional alignment, but beneath the official wording is a clear and harsh message. The monarchy is for people born into it, not those who marry into it, and especially not their extended families. How did Camilla react? Explosive, furious, personal. According to multiple sources, Camilla went into a rage, breaking into tears, raising her voice at staff, and calling the order a deliberate public humiliation. One witness reportedly overheard her yell, "I've spent decades earning my place, and now he's erasing me and my family in one stroke." It wasn't simply that her grandchildren were barred from attending royal ceremonies. Her legacy was disconnected from the crown, despite her status as Queen Consort alongside Charles. The timing only makes this more startling, with King Charles suffering rising health concerns and William taking on more active public obligations. This decision appears to be an early preview of William's reign, a glimpse into the kingdom he plans to construct, one that is slimmer, stricter, most importantly, free of controversy and personal favoritism. Camilla considers it more than merely a policy change. This is a personal betrayal. Behind palace walls, a quiet struggle is waging, a battle not only for titles, but for the monarchy's very survival. Camilla Parker-Bowles has been playing the long game for many years. She wasn't expected to become queen, let alone one of the most powerful women in the monarchy, after being vilified by the public, disregarded by royal traditionalists, and forever branded as the woman who came between Charles and Diana. Camilla, however, not only secured her own crown, but also began to construct an empire around it, thanks to deliberate silence, staunch allegiance, and excellent timing. That dominion included more than simply herself. It gradually spread to her children, Tom Parker-Bowles and Laura Lopes, and then to her 5 grandchildren, none of whom have a drop of royal blood, but all of whom began appearing in royal settings in ways that raised significant eyebrows behind the scenes. Tom and Laura, Camilla's children with her ex-husband Andrew Parker-Bowles, were initially unknown in royal circles. They led a somewhat secluded life, rarely appeared in press images, and held no official positions inside the firm. However, once Camilla married Charles in 2005, and particularly as her public image softened in the 2010s, minor adjustments began to occur. They began with special access, private invitations to royal residences, participation in high-security family functions, and even appearances at big public ceremonies, albeit from the sidelines. Camilla's children were not given formal titles, but they were afforded quiet advantages. Staff started referring to them as the Queen's family, and courtiers were told to include them in certain royal documents, guest lists, and ceremonial scripts. According to one former royal aide, it began subtly. Just names on a list here, a seat closer to the front there. But then you blinked, and they were regarded as if they belonged to the royal inner circle. Camilla's smart patience made this feasible. Never demanding too much at once, she gradually developed a narrative of inclusiveness, arguing that blended families should be welcomed in a modern monarchy. Her most daring move occurred during King Charles's coronation, when her grandsons, Gus and Louis Lopez and Freddie Parker Bowles, served as pages of honor. These positions have always been reserved for royal descendants or duke's sons. The decision astounded some insiders. The coronation was a line in the sand, explained one courtier. It was no longer just about respect for Camilla. It was a clear message. Her family had arrived. According to reports, Camilla began quietly advocating for her grandchildren to be given ceremonial titles, or at least public recognition, which would have symbolic weight even without official succession rights. She wished for her family to leave a lasting legacy, to be seen as an indelible part of the monarchy's destiny. What followed was a quiet yet determined campaign. Royal photographers were expected to take additional images of Camilla's grandchildren at events. Public relations personnel were urged to mention them in media briefings. Some staff began joking, albeit not without alarm, that the monarchy was gradually evolving into a dual dynasty, the Windsors by blood and the Parker Bowles by proximity. However, not everyone was amused. Prince William, in particular, became more concerned. According to sources close to him, Charles believed Camilla was going too far, exploiting her position beside the king to blur the lines between royal duties and personal enjoyment. He was apparently uneasy with the idea of presenting youngsters unrelated to the crown as key members of the monarchy. Princess Kate shared these concerns. "They've always believed in a streamlined, duty-bound monarchy," one source explained. For them, it wasn't just about titles, it was about maintaining the crown's integrity. Nonetheless, Camilla persevered. She allegedly campaigned for her grandchildren to be given permanent ceremonial places at official occasions, offered courtesy titles, and even requested that her family be provided new mansions on royal estates, all of which were quietly denied, delayed, or ignored. But behind those rejections, a storm was gathering. Because while Camilla was busy growing her family's presence, Prince William was planning to retake the palace for the Windsors, and only the Windsors. What began as mild favoritism was now perceived as an unofficial power grab, and the heir to the throne was no longer prepared to remain silent. For years, Prince William sat quietly as the monarchy grew into something unrecognizable, bloated, diluted, and increasingly blurred between bloodline and social favor. He stayed composed in public, projecting the picture of a devoted son and heir. But behind palace walls, he was plotting a reboot that would return the monarchy to its roots, lean, legitimate, and distinctly Windsor. According to those closest to William, his vision is motivated by responsibility rather than ego, a genuine feeling that the crown must be protected against the corrosive impact of sentiment, controversy, and second-hand royalty. And while he respects his father's feelings for Camilla, he has made it clear that love does not equal lineage. A basic concept underpins William's plan. Only people of royal lineage will represent the monarchy. That implies no honorary titles for the in-laws. There are no ceremonial functions for children unrelated to the crown. There are no blurred lines. The crown, as William stated, must be above favoritism and family politics. According to palace sources, William has long been concerned about the public's rising disapproval of royal luxury. He studied polling data, followed tabloid scandals, and witnessed the response whenever taxpayer dollars are used to support distant relatives with little constitutional significance. That's why his approach is based on Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II's core monarchy philosophy, which envisions a compact, focused royal team centered on the sovereign, their direct heirs, and working royals performing official tasks. There's nothing more, nothing less. And as he gains more visibility, William has begun to put that vision into action piece by piece. First came the internal memos, which revised ceremonial rosters, updated public engagement responsibilities, and removed individuals that were not directly related to the line of succession. Then followed the public moves, ensuring that only blood relations were front and center at big events, decreasing the exposure of extended family members, and most controversially, rescinding Camilla's honorary privileges for her grandchildren. This was not petty, it was calculated. The monarchy can't afford confusion, William reportedly told a senior advisor. The public must know who serves and who simply stands beside. To some, this may appear harsh. However, William considers it necessary. He believes that the crown should represent clarity rather than compassion for the sake of ease. If the royal family is to survive in an era of skepticism, controversy, and social media, its identity must be unbreakable. And it involves making difficult decisions, which his father has long avoided. Charles, for all his virtues, is seen as a sentimental ruler. He values old friendships, assigns symbolic positions, and frequently avoids conflict in the name of family unity. However, William is not like the others. His approach is deliberate, modern, and increasingly unforgiving. Nothing exemplifies this transformation more than his refusal to enable Camilla's family to benefit from her royal status. Regardless of how long she has worn the crown, William regards Camilla as the monarch's consort rather than the monarchy's matriarch. And what about her children and grandchildren? Simply private citizens. This reset does not reject Camilla as a person. Rather, it rejects the system that permitted personal favoritism to enter into Buckingham Palace. William does not aim to preside over a sentimental court. He aspires to rule over a rebuilt institution, clean, credible, and stripped down to its fundamental core. Camilla has suffered a hard blow, but for William, it is the first step towards preserving the monarchy for the future generation. His generation. When Queen Camilla learnt the news, one assistant described the reaction inside Clarence's house as nothing short of volcanic. The beautiful decor and manicured quiet of her royal house were shattered by an outburst of rage and astonishment. Even though royal outbursts are rarely discussed publicly, individuals close to the Queen Consort believe this one was impossible to miss. When Camilla learnt of Prince William's formal order to revoke all honorary privileges and ceremonial ties from her children and grandchildren, she allegedly yelled at her servants, demanding names, explanations, and "Fix this madness immediately." "How dare he? How dare he do this to me?" she reportedly yelled through tears. "After everything I've sacrificed and given, he repays me by deleting my family." Camilla found the time, technique, and message conveyed by the choice to be particularly poignant. There was no private talk or courtesy warning from William. Instead, she learnt about the directive from a briefing given to her by a top assistant. Much like any other procedural update, it was cold, clinical, and, in her opinion, intended to humiliate. Camilla was inconsolable for hours, according to staff. She canceled 2 events, refused meals, and instructed aides to clear her schedule indefinitely. According to one senior courtier, she didn't speak for the majority of the day, just paced, muttered, and cried. She kept saying, "He's attempting to obliterate me." According to sources close to her, she believed the move was extremely personal, about Diana rather than royal structure. "This is Diana's revenge through him," Camilla is believed to have told a close friend. "He refuses to let go of the past, not even now, not even after I've proven myself." What is the most stunning claim? Camilla reportedly accused William of being disrespectful to his father's marriage and claimed Kate encouraged the decision, describing the Princess of Wales as smiling and silent while pushing the knife in. Insiders say Camilla and Kate's relationship, which had previously been described as friendly but distant, is now ice cold. Camilla apparently declined to make eye contact with Kate during a recent joint royal engagement, acknowledging her only briefly in public or behind the scenes. According to colleagues, the message was clear: you stood by and let this happen. Even Charles, who has traditionally balanced the roles of peacekeeper and monarch, was allegedly frightened by his wife's breakdown. One aide overheard Camilla yelling at him in private, "Your son has humiliated me in front of the entire country, and you're going to let him get away with it." Charles, torn between his devotion to his wife and his son's growing control, made no quick response. According to some insiders, Camilla may have been upset more by the quiet than by the decision. She expected Charles to intervene, a courtier said, but deep down, she knows William's influence is growing and that Charles is already preparing to hand him more power. Camilla saw this as more than just access and honorifics. It was about legacy, about the conviction that she had finally been accepted, not merely as queen, but as an indelible thread in the fabric of royal history. And now, that thread is being snipped, one ceremonial snip at a time. Following Prince William's brave decision to suspend royal privileges from Camilla's family, the monarch has found himself embroiled in the most bitter fight of his reign, a quiet but terrible war between his son and his wife. And palace insiders claim the consequences are tearing him apart. Charles has always been a man guided by heart rather than confrontation. Unlike his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who reigned with icy constraint, Charles is noted for being sensitive, sentimental, and prone to avoiding direct confrontation. But William's royal reset has left him with nowhere to hide. According to sources close to the king, he is visibly shaken, emotionally exhausted, and torn between loyalty and legacy. Camilla's emotional outbursts, accusations of betrayal, and abrupt withdrawal from public duties have put enormous strain on a monarch who is already dealing with intense public scrutiny and ongoing health concerns. According to advisors, Charles is most upset by William's determination to back down. "We are not a royal family of in-laws and extras," William allegedly informed his father during a secret meeting. "We're a queue, and I refuse to let that barrier be blurred. Not for Camilla, not for anyone." The chat, while quiet, was devastating. Charles apparently begged William to reconsider, not to reinstate Camilla's family, but to halt the decision, or at the absolute least, deliver it quietly, without media leaks or internal memos. William declined. "Transparency is the point," he subsequently told aides. "It's not personal. It is about the institution, and institutions thrive by creating boundaries, particularly in families like ours." That line, however, now runs through the heart of the royal household. Camilla has apparently begun to distance herself from the king, feeling abandoned by his silence. According to palace insiders, she has skipped multiple family strategy briefings, postponed correspondence with the Privy Council, and refused to engage directly with William and Kate. Behind closed doors, the Queen Consort interprets Charles's inaction as tacit agreement of William's decision. "He let his son cut my family out, and he said nothing," she allegedly told a friend. "I supported him through decades of scandal. Now where is he?" Some courtiers quietly sympathized with Camilla, realizing that while her grandchildren were never royal by blood, they had become part of the larger royal story during Charles's reign. Others support William's decision, describing it as a necessary correction to years of soft favoritism and ambiguous boundaries. But regardless of one's opinion, the message is clear. The king is no longer in complete power. "William is already behaving like a king," one longtime advisor claimed. "And Charles knows it. He notices the writing on the wall, but he does not want to lose his son or his wife." Caught between legacy and love, Charles is now obliged to choose not only a side, but also a course for the monarchy. Does he share his wife's vision of a more inclusive, blended royal family? Or does he succumb to William's mission to defend the purity of succession and the might of the crown? Charles is now mute. However, quiet in the royal family is rarely neutral, and others within the palace believe it's just a matter of time until Charles has to make a decision. His queen, or king-in-waiting. The directive has been signed. The protocol amendments have been disseminated. And just like that, Camilla's family's quiet privileges are no longer recorded in royal archives. What began as rumors of William's dissatisfaction has evolved into a full-fledged reform of royal access. Palace insiders acknowledged that the Parker Bowles name, which had quietly risen through the ranks of ceremonial inclusion, is being gradually eliminated from the monarchy's machinery. The initial signs arrived quietly. Camilla's grandchildren, who played significant roles at King Charles III's coronation, were not invited to an impending state banquet. No reason was provided. Then followed the memo, an internal document distributed to royal household departments, clarifying that non-lineal relatives of the Queen Consort shall no longer be extended ceremonial access, honorary placement, or public recognition in official state documents. Simply put, Camilla's children and grandchildren were cut off. No more seats in the royal box, no more page of honor rolls, no more press mentions, and most importantly, no future titles or honorary orders, even as symbolic gestures. It was as if the palace was saying, "You were never royal, and now the world will know it." According to senior officials, Prince William personally oversaw the move, which he urged be carried out professionally, but firmly. "This isn't retribution, it's restoration," he reportedly told employees. "We owe it to the crown, not to the court of emotion." The command extended beyond the ceremonies. It also had an impact on the more affluent sectors of royal society. Security precautions previously granted to Camilla's grandkids have been reduced back, apparently to standard private citizen levels. Invitations to royal charity galas and public events were canceled, and event organizers were quietly directed to direct all inquiries to the palace communications office. Even more telling was an update to the official royal family website, a tiny detail to most, but significant to royal watchers. The Queen's Family tab has been removed. Camilla's bloodline is no longer mentioned in current or future event planning, but only in historical bios. One source said, "It's like a digital disappearing act, surgical, cold, effective." The tone inside Clarence House is characterized as grim and icy. Camilla, who had anticipated her family would be honored for supporting the monarchy during difficult times, now feels deceived, erased, and ignored. According to sources, she has conferred with longtime advisors and media contacts to see whether she should begin crafting her own legacy narrative independent of the Windsor firm. "If they won't remember us with kindness, they'll remember that we didn't go quietly," she allegedly told a confidant. But the palace machine has already changed gears. Event preparations have resumed, without the Parker Bowles family. Invitations to next year's Trooping the Color and Garter Day have been prepared. The list only includes direct Windsor descendants and working royals. Some staffers speculate that William's measures, while ruthless, are restoring clarity to a monarchy that had lost its course. Others are concerned that the human cost is high, that the royal family, which is already fractured, has just burned another bridge that it may regret one day. But William appears unmoved. The monarchy he is establishing is not for comfort, it is for stability. And in his opinion, Camilla's family was in a passing phase that he has now permanently closed. The Parker Bowles line's message is final. "You were guests. The gates are now closed. There was no speech. There is no press release. There is no dramatic showdown in front of the cameras. But behind the luxury of Buckingham Palace, a transformation is taking place, led by a future king who is no longer in the wings." Prince William has drawn his line, and in doing so, he has redefined what the monarchy will look like during his reign: lean, blood-bound, and brutally focused on legacy above sentiment. Camilla's family, once set to bask in the institution's radiance, has been expelled with the stroke of a pen. Not out of cruelty, but out of conviction. The days of fuzzy edges and honorary indulgence are over. In their place, William is creating something more traditional, defined, and, some would argue, colder. Step-grandchildren do not have titles. Access is not provided as a favor. And in William's opinion, the crown must be built on a solid basis of ancestry, duty, and historical legitimacy. Insiders claim his reign, which has not yet begun, is already throwing a long shadow over the current one. Despite being trapped in a tempest of split loyalties, King Charles has stayed publicly neutral. But in William's silence, memos, and precision, a new royal order is emerging. Camilla's legacy does not fit within that arrangement. Many royal loyalists believe this is long overdue, an essential purification of a monarchy that had deviated too far into sentimentality and modern excess. Others, however, interpret it as a colder, more corporate crown, one that trades warmth for structure and sympathy for routine. Camilla's rage may subside, Charles's quiet may hold, but William's message is clear. The crown is not inherited by marriage. It is gained by blood, carried by duty, and safeguarded by determination. The monarchy he plans to head will not be shared. It will be claimed, curated, and cruelly kept. For better or worse, the era of compromise is over, and in its stead stands Prince William's monarchy, which is cold, clean, and uncompromising.